Hello, Flat Earth researchers, debaters, and debunkers. I've got a collection of 9 anti-Flat Earth memes that I'm going to go through. They're good examples of the kind of mindset we're having to deal with when you ask people to simply question reality or question the consensus that we are taught as a scientific fact that we live on the outside of a spinning ball. So often those that hear about this will go on the attack and they'll make fun of people like myself just asking the question and saying, well, hey, it appears to be level and stationary. Prove me wrong. In the 5-6 years that I've been asking this question, no one's ever come up with any actual proof that we live on the outside of a sphere, apart from pointing at the sky, talking about sunsets or satellites and the ISS as proof that we are somehow on the outside of a spinning sphere, which would otherwise be physically impossible unless we had concepts such as gravity to hold us on. So let's have a look at these memes and I'll give some responses to them. This one says, after 1,500 hours on YouTube, you have become wiser than all the universities combined. Become a flat earther. Well, there's quite a lot of assumptions there to start with. There's nothing wrong with YouTube as a resource for all kinds of information. It's a massive vault of things that people have posted on a myriad of topics. You can find anything you want as long as it's not too controversial on YouTube. But you can certainly find lots of experiments and things like that that people have done to show you that there is no proof whatsoever that the Earth is a sphere. In fact, there's oodles of proof that we live on a level, stationary Earth, but nothing to indicate that we live on a sphere. But of course, a lot of arguments about it. But of course, a lot of people might have come across the flat Earth because they watched a video on YouTube. And of course, people like myself talk about it and post videos about our findings and our research on YouTube, simply because it does reach a vast number of people, and it is very easy and functionable to be able to functionable. Yes, I think so. Basically, it's easy to upload a video and talk about or even demonstrate how the Earth is not a spinning ball. So it's a great resource, but that doesn't make you wiser than all of the universities combined. What university, just because you get a university degree, does that mean that you know the Earth is a spinning ball? What difference does going to university make, or what difference does having a degree make? And besides, there are plenty of very smart, intelligent people with degrees up to their eyeballs that don't believe the official narrative that we live on a spinning ball. So I don't know why this statement is made, but of course it shows that there's this idea that as long as you have been thoroughly educated in the system, then you will believe that we live on a spinning ball because you understand the concepts and you accept the concepts without question. And in that case, you become a globe earther. And if you think about it, this thing about saying that this is done through YouTube research. Well, if you're in your if you're above middle age, in your 40s or 50s, you probably, or even older, you grew up in a time when there was very little choice of things to watch on TV. If you're from the UK, you might remember having only 3 or 4 channels to watch, and of course the news was pretty much the same. And as you go through life, you start to realize that or you do your research, let's say, you realize that all the media organizations have been gradually conglomerated into massive organizations with tentacles that feed very standard press releases to all those news outlets. So things can very easily become consensus or widely known or passed off as fact when you only have to broadcast on 1 or 2 TV channels to get your message across. So think about that. Many of us were raised in a time where we had very limited access to information. We could only take in what we were told through the box in the corner. But now we can at least look up something on YouTube and maybe learn something new and find a different take or different research or different new science that hasn't been shown to us on mainstream media for all kinds of reasons, including vested interests. So there's that meme done. Let's have a look at the next one. Water cannot curve. Balloons are fake. Become a flat earther. Another idiotic answer to that question or demand for bendy water. Now, of course, we're talking about bodies of water. Water is known to be level in all instances. And if it's not level, then it will flow. It will flow down curves. It doesn't just bulge and bend and not flow anywhere, which is, of course, what water would have to do if it was on the outside of a spherical Earth. So instead of coming up with some actual scientific measurements of curving bodies of water, we have this little parlor trick with a balloon that's been charged with static electricity, which will indeed pull the water. And that's real science, I suppose. It does demonstrate a relationship between electricity and water, or flowing water at least. There's movement going on there. There's something very interesting happening there. But that's not even what is supposed to be the physics that holds water to a spherical Earth, is it? It's supposed to be gravity. So this isn't a demonstration of gravity holding bodies of water to the outside of the Earth. It's just a balloon that's been statically charged, making water bend, a thin stream of water bend. Now, you can also do amazing things with frequency as well. If you pass pass frequencies through flowing water or still water, you get some amazing patterns. Again, this is science. This is real physics, but it's real physics that really doesn't pertain to any explanations as to how water would stick to the outside of a globe. Now, of course, the thing is, in reality, we see water flowing, but on a globe, the water shouldn't be flowing down curves. Okay, so we're talking about entire bodies of water. So when you come up with this kind of demonstration, that's not a demonstration of an answer to the question, where is the bulging, bending, curving water that we're supposed to see on a spherical Earth, especially if you say that the horizon is where the water starts to curve away from you. Then there should be a way to show us that actual curvature, rather than simply having faith that the physics of water suddenly changes at the limit of your vision. It's quite a ridiculous argument. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Here we have a picture of a spherical Earth in space, and these two spirit levels on them. And of course, they aren't horizontally level with each other. We've got London over here and Stockholm on the right here. It says, no matter where on Earth you place a spirit level, it is level because the Earth is flat. Become a flat earther. Now, of course, this is one of those thought experiments that you have to have. We can see here that if we were to see such a vast section of the Earth at one time, a globe Earth that is, the spirit levels would not be horizontally plumb. They wouldn't be flush, with each other. They would in fact be angled like that. But of course the assumption is that the word level refers to a certain distance from the center of an assumed spherical Earth, or a circle, a geometric circle. So just like drawing a circle with a compass, the level of that surface is always the same distance from the center, and this is the perception of level. And of course you have to come up with this idea that, well, this gravity is pulling everything down towards the center. So of course the spirit level will still read level, even if it's gone round a curve from the first measuring point or reference point. But of course, this is not something that we can do in reality. In reality, if you have a horizontal line that's plumb or perpendicular to plumb, and then you have that going off on a straight line, then that is your level. If there is any deviation from that, then of course it is not level with the first reference point. So this is just an argument that insists that you imagine all kinds of things and you believe in concepts of gravity and certain mathematical models, and you're allowed to say that even if something is at a different angle to something else in a different location, it's still level because it's the same distance from the center of the Earth. Either way, we're talking about concepts which we all understand. We can all draw a circle, and as I've just explained the concept, but that doesn't make it reality. So what? We've got a concept here that's being turned into a meme. As it's not a proof of anything. Oh, in fact, I should just mention that I've done an experiment in which I tried to measure any existence of curvature across 10,000 kilometers between going from Thailand, from Thailand to the UK, and there was nothing that I could do to find the existence of any curvature. It's level all the way. So the onus of proof there is really on the person claiming that level is bendy, not the person that says it's level all the way to claim to prove that it's level. It is level, demonstrably level. So if you want to say that level is a curve, then you're the one that has to prove this obscene deviation from what level is usually is. And this one, the moon is local and very, very close. Become a flat earther. Another ridiculous thing here. I mean, we really don't know what the moon is. It's a funny meme, I must admit, but of course it doesn't really mean or prove anything. But it's difficult to know for sure the distance of any luminary in the sky, the sun, the stars, all these distances that we hear about, the sun being 93 million miles away, are just prerequisites for the model. They are necessary for the model. The heliocentric model. There's nothing that's ever been properly measured or proven. And if people say that they've gotten radar signals back from the sun that's 93 million miles away, then you really are living in cloud cuckoo land, because that's just simply impossible, given the assumption that you're moving through space at thousands of miles an hour and spinning at the same time. There's no way you'd get a radar signal back. And how can you send a radar signal? It would be great to show me a radar picture of the sun. Let's see it. Yeah. So doesn't really do anything apart from show that the person thinking of like this was thinking of something silly. So this one, the water in the bath is flat. The soil in the potted plant is flat. So the whole globe must be flat. I'm special. Become a flat earther. Well, again, where does it change? Where does the physics of water change? Ask anyone to give you a measurable example of that, and they can't. There's the water in a bath is no different to the water in a loch or a lake or the ocean. And when the water in the ocean has somewhere to go, it will, or the ocean, or the water in a river, it will flow to a lower elevation. But if you believe you're living on a sphere, no matter whether you understand the concept that there's no up and down in space, the fact is that you assume that when you're stood on the Earth, that the surface is going or curving down and away from you. So in the real world, when water is going down and away from us, it will indeed flow down a curve or down a waterfall or down even a few inches over several kilometers or miles along an aqueduct. This is physics, real physics of water on the real Earth that the Romans used to their advantage to get water from high up on mountain reservoirs all the way into cities which were at a lower elevation. They simply used the real physics of water and gravity in that respect, that once you have a large body of water at a high elevation, then it has weight and pressure to feed water to a vast area at a lower elevation. This is just simple physics. But at no point does the physics of water suddenly change so that it's not flowing down curves. And well, maybe the person questioning this is so-called special because they're not going along with the official narrative, or at least questioning consensus. And that does make you look special, because you're the only person putting your hand up and asking a question which might appear to show that you don't understand the concept. And it's like, well, no, we don't. The concept's very easy to understand, but where is the proof of that in reality? It doesn't exist. So yes, maybe you are special to be able to break free from these chains of education that we are given from an early age. I think you would have to be somewhat special to not be totally brainwashed by everything that we're taught to believe at a very young age, without question. So that makes you special, brave, independent, free, yeah, rather than a slave. Right. This one. Are you thrown back in the train if you jump as it moves? Yes. Become a flat earther. What really happens, and does it make any difference? I mean, what is the point in talking about this? We're talking about real physics, I suppose. We're talking about conservation of momentum. So yes, if you are in a train and you jump while it's moving along, then you might well not necessarily, the train doesn't suddenly start moving independently from you. You have that inertia. You're going along with this. You have the inertia that you're being carried. You are part of the train until you detach from it, but you're still traveling. I mean, that's just normal physics. But of course, what we're talking about here is for example, you have something like the Foucault's pendulum, where this pendulum is said to be swinging in a straight line above a rotating Earth, and it only appears to rotate because the Earth is rotating beneath it. But really, this is just another parlor trick, because if you set a pendulum off, it will not always swing back and forth on exactly the same line that you let it go on. In fact, that's the nature of objects that are trying to go down or suspended, but they can't go down. You get this kind of spiraling effect. So the reason we ask why the Earth doesn't rotate beneath us when we leave the Earth, just like jumping in a moving train, for example, is because we have certain experiments or observations that are interpreted as being the Earth moving freely under a suspended object. But of course, if you ask a pilot whether the Earth spins beneath the aircraft, it doesn't. Nothing in reality would have us think that the Earth is spinning beneath us, except for a few experiments that are just a matter of interpretation, especially pendulums. As I said, that's what they do. If you get the length and the weight right, you can simply make the pendulum do a full circle back and forth over a 12 or 24-hour period. It's just a parlor trick. And so this is an irrelevant argument anyway. And a similar one here. It's not flying, no movement or motions whatsoever, perfect, still and stationary. Become a flat earther. So again, this relates to our experience on the Earth, is that it is level and stationary. It's not curved for all the other reasons we've talked about. But of course, if you're in an aircraft that's moving along, then you are moving along with the aircraft until you start to become independent of the movement. Then you will encounter or experience the fact that the aircraft is moving. But this, of course, is talking about things going along in a straight line. The Earth is said to be there shouldn't be any linear conservation of momentum when we're talking about a spinning globe, because that is continuous acceleration or angular momentum. So arguing about linear momentum and conservation of momentum with a linear path is totally obsolete. And again, it just shows that it's not taking into account what's supposed to be happening if you're talking about the physics of being on the outside of a spinning globe. So another irrelevant argument there. So here we go, an argument about gravity. Meanwhile, on flat Earth without gravity, you don't understand science, become a flat earther. So here we have again this concept. The concept of gravity is nothing but a thought experiment, or the assumption that there is a force directed towards the center of an imagined spherical Earth. And of course you would need this force to make sure that you did stay on the outside of a spherical Earth. And given real physics, we know that if you encountered a curve that wasn't level, then you would slide down it. You would indeed slide off the Earth. So this concept of gravity is a requirement. Now, of course, just because you suddenly perceive the Earth as not being a spinning ball or level, well, you're still denser than the air around you, and so are most objects. Everything that's on a table, or the table itself that's on the floor, it's not in a medium that makes it float, but it's just because things have weight, it doesn't prove anything about the shape of the Earth. It just refers to the relative density of the object in its medium. Put everything that you see around you in water and you'll get different results. You might well get a picture that looks more like this, where the medium is more dense, so there's a difference in the relationship between the dense objects and what have you. So what we do see on the Earth is layers of density. Density doesn't necessarily cause a force, doesn't create a force, but how far do you take this argument about when and where things were created and where they were created? You were born in air and you stand on the Earth, and that's just how it is. But of course, if you are able to measure the rate of acceleration of an object that's falling, you can then interpret that as a force. And of course, with the formula like F equals ma, you have a wonderful formula for mathematics to describe the rate of acceleration of a dense object falling in the medium of air. That's it. But of course, if you are able to measure that, you can then create all sorts of other mathematical concepts off that, and you can say that the Earth has a certain mass, and it's the Earth that's pulling everything towards its center, and away you go, constructing a mathematical model. But and you can say that you can call weight gravity, which is essentially what gravity is. It's just weight. That's what it is. You can talk about measuring the rate of acceleration or the density of something. It's all just nuances of different words, but doesn't prove the shape of the Earth in any way at all. But of course, gravity is a concept that you have to take on board, and you have to believe in if you are to believe that you live on the outside of a sphere, because we know that otherwise it would be physically impossible. And it's quite funny that depictions of a flat Earth floating in space, which is not what your average flat earther believes in, by the way. There's no presumptions about what space is or what's beyond. But you'll have pictures of an Earth with water flowing off the edges. Well, just like it does in reality, when there's a cliff, there's a waterfall. That's what water does. But apparently, if you believe you live on a globe, then water doesn't do that. So you're living in this conceptual world that has nothing to do with our actual physical reality. All right, this is the last one, really. This is a map that has been adopted by many the flat Earth community, as it were, because it is an interesting way of looking at, or a new way of looking at the layout of the land. Now it says here, all Earth maps come from the extortion of, I'm not a THR map, from that of a globe, because Earth is flat, become a flat earther. So you really have to understand how map making works, and the azimuth of a North Pole for a polar projection. Well, basically the globe is just two polar projections. It's a North Pole and a South Pole. They are arbitrary points. It just so happens that the North Pole is assumed to be a point beneath the North Pole, Polaris. So what you have is this azimuth map, which is based on the angles that you would see things from your point on the North Pole, and this works well as far as the time zones and things like that, but it doesn't truly represent the actual distances. The countries are not necessarily spreading out like that as they do from the center. The only reason they are doing that is because everything is being talked about in terms of angles, and as I've talked about before, when it comes to celestial navigation, distances are talked about in terms of angles. So angles and distances are basically the same in terms of nautical miles. So what you have here is with the this kind of projection is just those angles. Doesn't truly represent the actual distances. So it's a helpful map to at least break free from this idea that there's a globe, and then Antarctica is on the bottom of said globe. But this doesn't truly represent reality either. In fact, it's very, very difficult, impossible to truly represent the Earth from this perspective. And you have to think about it. It's a perspective that we've never seen. And of course, we come to rely on images of the Earth from space. The globe is a concept backed by these images, and apparently, of course, the most famous ones being when astronauts got far away from Earth to be able to see it in its entirety on the way to the moon. But just a little bit of research will lead you to realize that those pictures simply are not real photographs taken from that kind of distance. But there you go. That's the roundup of those memes there. I hope it's helped just think about some of the arguments, or at least show how all of these arguments and misrepresentations of people asking questions, or even physics, shows that the only way to defend the belief in a globe is to act like this, in this very childish way, because no one can actually come up with any scientific measurable proof. So until they do, I shall remain a flat earther. Thank you very much.